I do agree with you. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur or direct salesperson or what have you. I mean, the technologies that are available, there's never been such affordable technology to build your websites, create your CRMs, your communication platforms, email, texting, voicemail, broadcast, ways to follow up and communicate with clients. When I got involved in internet marketing, and I've been involved in internet marketing, by the way, since 1996, very early adapter, generated in my career over $1 billion of online sales for either my own companies or companies I worked for. And I've seen the whole evolution of the internet. So, and back when I started, I mean, it was very, very difficult. You had to learn coding and HTML coding and all this kind of stuff. And today it's, plug and play, website builders, funnel builders. There's still technology to learn, but it's a whole lot easier than it used to be. So.
Hello and welcome to Pathways. I am your host, Amber Stitt. And today we welcome Marco Torres to the show today. Welcome, Marco.
Hey, thanks for having me. I look forward to this chat.
I was looking forward to chatting with you because I do love marketing and I'm an insurance nerd that really loves marketing and talking about insurance to get people excited because not everyone's excited about talking through death or disabilities, So I have to zhuzh it up a bit. And so when we can get guests on the show that can help people think outside the box and how to maybe personally brand, stand out, and just work to cultivate more revenue, being business owners or maybe employees with a side business. And so I know you have quite the story to share, but this is the world you live in. And you are a founder of a current business, marketingboost.com, but that's not the only thing you've done, from what I understand.
That's very true. I've been an entrepreneur since age of 9. By the time I was 12, I had built the biggest paper out that paper had ever seen. They featured me on the front page for building the biggest run. And I forgot all about that until a few months ago. I was going through my dad's, he's no longer with us. But anyway, I was going through some old files and found a file he had on me with a paper clipping of me on the front page. I'm like, whoa, that's cool.
Well, isn't that interesting when you do affect other people's lives? There's things that we are doing that can affect other people's lives. Now, yes, it was a job for you, but there's other things that trickle down from showing up and doing your best at any phase.
Absolutely. Well, he taught me that I got a lot to learn from my father's work ethics. And, he never handed me out any weekly allowances. He got me, said, hey, if you want to buy that Schwinn bicycle you want, you can wait for Christmas or your birthday and maybe Santa will bring it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can figure out how to go earn some money and buy it, whenever you want it. So he suggested a paper route. Back then it was a real business. I mean, we had to, I had to deliver the paper. I had to sell the subscriptions, then go deliver the papers, then go back and collect the money, run a spreadsheet so that my dad taught me that so I would know who owes me what for each week, collections. And it turned out to be a fun project. I eventually sold the route. So
I didn't think about that. I was always a little jealous of seeing people making money as a younger person, looking out the window, going, but that's really early. Yeah. I didn't know you had to sell the actual subscriptions.
Well, I don't know about nowadays, but back then there was no internet for people to sign up to to pay their bill. I had to knock on doors and sell the subscription. And then I had to, worst part was go back and collect the money after you made all the deliveries and people owe you money. And then you have to stop the deliveries until you can collect because they never answer the door. Yeah, it was
man.
All those kinds of challenges of coming. What time of day do you have to hit their door for them to show up and pay? And
there might be some incentives of charging in advance or a deposit. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So when you did this, were you out of the country at this time?
Yeah, I was growing up in Puerto Rico. Good question. Now, my father was transferred to General Electric credit to the island of Puerto Rico, which is obviously part of the United States. But I had the opportunity to grow up in Puerto Rico, surfing and what have you. It was a great youth there, and then the Virgin Islands. And then by the time I was 23, I had 5 restaurants in the Caribbean and full-service restaurant in St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, 4 fast food restaurants in Puerto Rico. And by the time I was, 27, I had a nightclub of my own as well. So early mover and shaker.
Yes.
I thought I'd be a billionaire by 35. I swore I would be, but I've never hit that yet. But
we'll just extend that 10-year thinking out just a little bit longer.
A little bit longer, yeah. Still haven't got there.
Now, what was it about the restaurants and the clubs that you left that behind? Because doesn't that sound very glamorous? Beach life?
It was. The restaurants were cool. And by the way we got involved in that, my older brother and I dropped out of college after about a year and a half. and decided I wanted to be an entrepreneur and convinced my older brother and my mom, hey, we got to be, we were Mexican descendants. We got to open a Mexican restaurant here in Puerto Rico. And my dad laughed at us and says, you guys don't know anything about the restaurant business. Again, teaching us the work ethics. He said, if you're serious about that, I might be able to help you get the financing, but I'm not going to do that until you prove you guys really, are into this and know what you want and what you're going to do. So we went to live with my uncle in Dallas, and we were funnel hacking before there was such a thing. In other words, we went to work for every restaurant, bunches of different restaurants in San Antonio, Texas, and lots of Mexican food restaurants there.
Yeah.
And so we worked the midnight shifts. We volunteered to do this, so we could go in with cameras and take pictures of everything from the stainless steel setups to the orders, what they would order, the equipment they use, processes. And we would compare notes from the different restaurants we worked at. And eventually we came up with our own concept of how we were going to deliver Mexican food without buying a franchise. And it turned out to be a home run. Eventually we sold. You asked me why we got out of it. We had our dream of franchising this, starting in Puerto Rico and then taking it to the US and selling franchises and the whole ball of wax. Honestly, after 5 years of this, we were, burnt out on what it takes to be successful in the restaurant business. Very, very hard, very low margins. And we ended up selling and got the perfect timing to sell to Taco Bell when they wanted to come into the Puerto Rico island and get all the food court malls that we were in. So we sold 4 of our 5 restaurants to Taco Bell, and the rest was history. We couldn't wait to get rid of the one in St. Thomas either. That one eventually disappeared with a hurricane, so we never rebuilt it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, when I'm looking at what you're doing now and just being a part of I'm thinking more along that lines of the reward incentive world that you're in. We'll talk about that here soon. But just to be along for the ride and see the joy from the customer perspective in the restaurant business. You test that, see if that's your thing. But you can sell out to Taco Bell. That's pretty amazing. And I love the strategy. So the funnel hacking's really, I'm thinking funnels like marketing funnels. You guys were just truly doing ultra brainstorming by pulling everything together just to see how different entities are doing the process and the flow. Is that the funnel hacking part?
Exactly. I mean, we didn't know the restaurant business, and yet we wanted to be in it, right? And so the message I have for anybody listening here, if you're looking at starting your own business, you better work in that industry first. So maybe it's something you've been doing all your life and now you want to branch off and do your own business. That's smart. But if you're like, okay, I want to do this, I'd love to have my own business in photography, you should go work for another photography industry. Go work for a wedding expert, or go work for somebody who's doing this and learn everything that they do right and look at what they might be doing wrong that you could improve on. But as you do it for somebody else, even as an apprentice, you're going to be getting the skills and the talent, a lot of what you're going to need to learn without having to learn it, on your own, lose money in the process. So,
I feel that with YouTube and these videos that are out there, how to do things, plus actually skin in the game and having experience, that we're going to have quite some, I think, generations that are truly going to excel in entrepreneurship, because now there's both of that. If they have the gusto to go do that and they're driven enough, plus they have other resources, there's really no excuses now to get after it, I guess is my point. And I work in financial services, as I was telling you, and there's not a lot of people coming into my industry. And I advocate a lot for people to say a lot of the systems are outdated. We call it antiquated, essentially, where you get thrown in, take a bunch of exams, and here you go. You're now a planner. Well, what does that mean? Am I doing a budget, retirement planning? What age group? So going in and building a community and testing some of these positions, it's not wasting time. It's truly going to help you figure out what you might love and what you might not. And then you can plug in where needed and where your strengths are.
Absolutely. And I do agree with you. There's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur or direct salesperson or what have you. I mean, the technologies that are available, there's never been such affordable technology to build your websites, create your CRMs, your communication platforms, email, texting, voicemail, broadcast, ways to follow up and communicate with clients. When I got involved in internet marketing, and I've been involved in internet marketing, by the way, since 1996, very early adapter, generated in my career over $1 billion of online sales for either my own companies or companies I worked for. And I've seen the whole evolution of the internet. So, and back when I started, I mean, it was very, very difficult. You had to learn coding and HTML coding and all this kind of stuff. And today it's, plug and play, website builders, funnel builders, There's still technology to learn, but it's a whole lot easier than it used to be. So
You are an OG. You know what that means?
Oh, God, I don't know.
You're an original gangster of marketing.
Oh, there you go.
Now, I remember the coding that I remember was MySpace and going, oh, if I want to put this song or this whatever it was, you copy paste. And once you got it to work, you're like, look at me go. But you're right. There's so many ways to go about it. I think people can get overwhelmed. That's why podcasting and other community building, you can figure out what can you kind of tap into on your own with some of the plug and play tech, but then maybe outsource some of these other pieces. And that's where it's pretty amazing. You have about 30,000 of regular subscribers to what you have today within your business. Is that correct?
yes.
You have been evolving and innovating over time. But I think that's pretty impressive. And you mentioned $1 billion word earlier too, and you kind of glossed over that. So, I mean, the volume there and keeping at it with the right resources definitely helps, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. I got involved in internet marketing in 1996, 97. By the time 2000 came along, I figured it out. And I was hitting a lot of grand slams out of the park with, I was an email, I guess I was a spammer before they even called it spam. I'm talking about before Facebook, before Google, before.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of email, all the AOL. And back then people loved their email, it was.
Yeah.
You've got mail. Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of what we sold over the years was travel. I went to a private company where I built their internet marketing and we started doing over $200 million a year in sales. And that went on until the year 2008, and it came to a crashing halt. During the crisis of 2008, found myself firing 2,000 telemarketers.
Wow.
Back then, if people don't remember, the internet meant to drive people to a phone call. People didn't want to buy online in the early days. Nobody bought anything over the internet. Nobody wanted to put their credit card in some lost space. But they wanted to talk to people on the phone and tell me about it, answer my questions, and then they'd buy over the phone. So we had 2,000 telemarketers that I was feeding calls to and everything. Eventually that changed. Today, nobody wants to talk to anybody on the phone, right?
Don't look at me. Just text me.
Right? Text me, email me, whatever. The last thing I want to do is talk to, don't you dare call me. I won't pick up the phone. So
it's like, how quickly can I pick up and be like, oh, that's spam, block.
Yeah, that was a mistake. Exactly. So today it's obviously online, and now it's a matter of, can you generate constant reviews? Can you have social proof? Do you have the social proof you need for people to believe and know, like, and trust you? And anyway, it's grown into a lot of experience that hopefully I can add some more value bombs for your listeners.
Social proof. That might be obvious to us, but let's talk about social proof and think of it like, if you answer this for us, employees can still not be a business owner yet, but still be building out social proof of their reputation. Can you expand? What
I also coach a lot on and try to do myself is provide value, free content, providing value, showing, for example, like your podcast. I have my own podcast show as well, where I'm interviewing experts on business of all kinds and highlighting not only my expertise, but others, and showing myself as the authority, the expert in my industry. That's one way to do it. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Or get yourself invited on other podcasting shows about your expertise and start having that, social proof, as seen on Amber Show and so on and so forth. People Google my name now and I'll show up with hundreds of podcasts that I've been on. And that type of thing is part of that social proof. But to tell about Marketing Boost, that's actually how we were born. It's kind of, can I go ahead and tell that story?
Yeah.
So Marketing Boost was born, we were in the travel business prior to getting into the Marketing Boost, which is just a quick snapshot. Marketing Boost we provide travel incentives to business owners to give them incentives that they can use to add to whatever their call to action is, to enhance that call to action with more value versus discounting, for example. The way it came about is we were in the travel business with another very successful travel website that we were building after 2010 when I got back in business for myself after the crash. And we were building this travel website, having a lot of clients, selling hotels and resorts all over the world, but we wanted video reviews. We wanted more social proof, but we couldn't get anybody to go an extra mile and film a selfie testimonial about the hotel they were staying at or what have you. So we came up with an idea to offer them a bonus vacation while they were on vacation and came up with a survey process. By the way, this is a great tip I give to anybody listening. We would do a survey when we felt our client was at their peak of happiness, which in our case was the day after they checked into the hotel. So we would send them an email and text message saying, hey, how's the hotel you booked living up to your expectations? Can you give us a star rating? Do you like the hotel and how's our service been so far? And if we got a 4 or 5 star rating back from the client, we would send them a message going, thank you, we're thrilled you're enjoying that hotel. Would you do us a huge favor? Help us spread the word about that hotel or that resort. If you go that extra mile and film a selfie video review of the hotel, brag about their brand and brag about ours, if you'll do that, we'll give you a bonus trip, 3 nights in Orlando or Las Vegas. Boom, that worked like a charm. Before we knew, dozens of these and then hundreds of these reviews coming in, video testimonials. And we knew that if we only had those, we'd leverage them. We'd publish them all over our website, our Facebook, our YouTube channels, our TV ads. And of course, it was working like a charm. But if we had to turn off the campaign because it was, okay, this is expensive to fulfill now. We have to give people, and we got to give these people 3 nights in Orlando or Las Vegas, and that's coming out of our pocket. So then we thought, man, if we could only find a way to not have to pay for these rooms, we could keep this campaign going. So since we were a high volume travel company, we went back to those partners in Orlando and Vegas and said, hey, look, we think we've found a way to solve a problem that you have. That problem is, let's be honest, your hotel's never full year round. Sure, you're full certain weekends, holidays, peak season, but the majority of the year, you've got empty rooms, 30, 40, 50% of them sitting empty. Yet you still have all the same fixed costs, mortgage payment, front desk staff, maintenance crews, etc. And if you'll give us that empty hotel rooms, access to that inventory, we're going to put warm bodies in those rooms, couples, families, individuals. They'll probably spend money at the restaurant, the bar, the gift shop, the excursion desk, the room service, the casino, and so forth.
Yeah.
And they agreed. And so now we were able to fulfill all of these trips we were giving away without costing us any money hardly. Then we thought, wow, if we had hotels like this all over the world participating, we'd have a whole nother standalone business, which is what eventually became marketingboost.com today, where we offer complimentary hotel stays. Is our key incentive really is complimentary hotel stays from 3 to 7 nights at 130 destinations around the world with hundreds of participating hotels. No timeshare presentations or any hoops like that to jump through, but it allows the Marketing Boost member who pays us a subscription fee, the ability to give away these incentives with whatever their call to action might be. Like, hey, pay for 12 months in advance of my service, and I'll give you 5 nights in Cancun on us. Or buy product B to go with product A, get them to spend more money. And if you buy product B to go with product A, we'll throw in 3 nights in Las Vegas on us. And then we have other incentives as well, like restaurant savings vouchers and hotel savings cards, different increments. The idea being that using these incentives to wow, surprise, and delight your clients to create additional engagement.
Well, thank you for sharing that. When we first started today, in my mind, I'm thinking you get to have a lot of fun building incentives and rewards while people are at their happiest. That in itself as a product is actually pretty cool. Versus, like you said, you cut out that timeshare presentation and you're just focusing on no overhead for that and that kind of training that it would require to be a sales trainer person in that role. You're able to build and customize product for people that are ultra happy, and it's global now too. I see that being a lot of fun to think about what kind of reward, what kind of add-on can I build to just make that experience better. So that is a really neat business model. The other thing that I think is so smart is that they're already there at that hotel. So yes, one extra day could maximize another, drinks, food, etc. They're going to spend more. Just like the gas station, you go there to get gas, but you're going to go in and maybe buy some other stuff while you're there.
No, but it's a good example because pulling up to the gas station, most of the gas stations make very little money on the fuel. They really want you to come in. The big winners are the racetracks of the world, the ones that get you to walk in and they've got snacks, food, all the different stuff to get you to spend a bundle, at full retail pricing before you walk out the door. So
the management of reputation online, I know that you help people with that. Do you talk about that a lot on your podcast or with clients? That's really where I feel that there's something that we can be doing online to kind of step it up a notch. And you touched on that a little bit already. But I think as we move through different pathways through our life and people that might retire into new businesses, it's never too early to start that positive, whatever you want it to be, whatever story you want to tell. Some people might be more radical than others, but I think it's always something we can be working on to put ourselves out there, especially now that we're more of a global community more than ever. And you obviously are living proof of that.
And there's so many ways to do that. But even, for example, let's say you're an Amazon vendor and you are, within their Prime platform. So that means when you sell a product to somebody on Amazon, you as the vendor don't know who the client was. Amazon keeps that information. They ship your product to that consumer. You have no idea who they are. How do you get them to come back and spend more money with you? How do you get them to upgrade and buy more? How do you get them to write a review? So yes, Amazon does have a system to automatically send reminders to people to post a review. But for example, in your packaging, in your delivery, you might include a QR code, and a reason for them to end up on your website, such as register your product with us and get a chance to win 5 nights in Cancun or Hawaii or Cabo San Lucas on us, one of the Marketing Boost incentives. Create a very enticing reason for them to click on that QR code and go register with you. Now, if you did that, you're acquiring the client information. Now you get name, phone number, email, street address, whatever you need, whatever.
They're giving you permission.
And then you can be saying, by the way, now that you're here, will you give us a review? And if you give us a review, we're going to reward you, with a $500 hotel savings card just for reviewing the product that you bought. Whether you liked it or not, we'd love to hear your feedback. And especially if you do that, the way we did it originally and still do, is we do that survey first as a survey process. So we would ask them how they loved our product. Mind you, if we got a 1, 2, or 3 star, we needed to know that. Then we could try to fix it. We could try to solve the problem, ship them another one, whatever the issue is, right? But if they gave us a 1, 2, or 3, we weren't sending them the message to post a review. We were letting them vent.
Yeah. I don't need you to put that online, please.
You venting with me and I'm over fixing it. On the other hand, if you gave me a 4 or 5, super. Now help me please tell the rest of the world about it. And that's an example of one way to help, start maintaining your online reputation, including I've got business owners, mind you, that use Marketing Boost incentives, even for something as simple as fixing negative reviews. Let's say you dropped the ball, somebody in your team dropped the ball, you got a client all upset. So you contact them and you say, listen, we want to apologize. We'd like to hit the reset button if you let us. We want to fix the product. We want to ship you a new one. We want to solve, whatever it is you have to do. And then you might say, just for the grief and the issue that we caused and we want to apologize for, we want to give you 3 nights in Las Vegas on us or 3 nights in, your choice of 30 US destinations. If we fixed the problem and we gave you a complimentary hotel stay on us, would you consider taking that review down, or would you modify that review? And you're going to have people willing to do so, So that's just another example of many. If you've got a little bit of creativity, you can use the incentives at trade show for trade show giveaways, for sweepstakes, online lead generation, for rewarding clients, building reward platforms. In the insurance industry, Amber, here's another idea that a lot of our members, I've got a ton of insurance agents and realtors. Here's an idea that even you could implement, and that is to lead by giving and support local nonprofits or fundraisers by providing them with our complimentary hotel stays, give them half a dozen trips they can give away. But let them auction those vacations off. Let them sell raffle tickets. Let them keep all the money. But what you're going to ask them to do is, hey, I'd like to be at the auction or at the fundraising event so that I can tell everybody a quick disclaimers about how they work. They don't include airfare. They don't include food and beverage. And they don't include government taxes and fees. I like to tell everybody how they work in case for the winners. And by the way, an elevator pitch. I'm your expert in real estate, or I'm the expert in financial planning. If you ever, need to review your current situation, give me a call. I'm the expert, yada, yada. Or I'm the realtor, I'm the plumber, and this is what we do. You're taking your sales hat off. You're supporting a good cause. People see you as that expert and authority that can afford to give away, half a dozen vacations as a sponsor of the event. And now you're rubbing shoulders with these philanthropists and you're getting leads without being in sales mode. And that means people are coming up to you asking for your card or what have you, instead of you, running around trying to be on sales mode and everybody's going, stay away.
Yeah. Yeah. Salesy, here she comes. So you said something I think pretty important. You don't wait for let's say in my world, the client experience. They go from buying an insurance policy, they have to get approved and then they're done. You don't wait for that to be done. You would want it in day 1 or 2, like when they're at their highest, they're excited. They showed up to the hotel, or they're so excited to be taking action for their family. You want to know almost at the beginning to the middle what's going on so you can use that for intel for yourself and your team. How are we doing? If it's great, great. Let's move it to a review, and potentially beyond that, there could be even more things. but you want to kind of nip it at the beginning.
Yeah, right. When we expect they should be, depending upon your product or service, right? You should have an idea when you should expect them to be at their peak of happiness. It could be the moment they bought it, but it's likely, once it arrived or once they've had a chance to use it or once they've gone through your onboarding training or, something along those lines. As far as when to do a survey process, like I mentioned. In the insurance industry, by the way, there are restrictions on using incentives. So you can't, for example, as far as in most states that I'm aware of, you can't incentivize a transaction. You can't say, by the way, if you get this insurance policy from me, I'm going to give you 5 nights in Cancun. But you could say, just ask me for a quote, and I'm going to give everybody who solicits the quote, whether you signed up with us or not, I'm going to give you a $200 hotel savings card just for, us giving the opportunity to give you a free quote. Or you might say, I'm going to guarantee it to beat whatever you've been quoted previously with the best product or service. And if you don't agree, I'm going to give you 3 nights in Las Vegas on us, whether you sign up for it.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. But I want that price. But do I want the trip instead?
So it might be,
Then we can have a tripwire saying, okay, but you still went with me. Thank you. Oh, here's a treat. I don't know.
Exactly.
So fun. So I know that, is there any do's and don'ts when it comes to this process outside of just what's not allowed by compliance?
Yeah, I'm not your lawyer, so there's plenty of compliance issues for different industries like real estate, like insurance. Most business owners have no worries of any restrictions to worry about incentivizing their clients. But in the insurance and real estate and mortgage industry, I know there's a number of restrictions. But in our case, do's and don'ts. For example, we train and they're not hardcore do's and no's, but they're really like, for example, with a Marketing Boost membership, you have the ability to give away as many of these incentives as you want. But we also train, just because you can give them away like candy, you shouldn't. In other words, create scarcity and urgency, make people do something to earn them. The more they do to earn the incentive, the more valuable that perceived value is going to be, and they're going to actually use it. They're going to use the incentive and be grateful to your company for having provided it. So that can be, for example, instead of saying, for everybody who signs up for my newsletter, I'm going to give you 3 nights in Las Vegas. It's just too good to be true, right? But if you were to say, hey, when you pay for 3 months in advance of my coaching business or 6 months in advance or on our 1-year anniversary, if you renew, I'm going to give you the following, rewards incentive. So you're creating, like, for example, I had one client comes to mind. He generated almost $500,000 in 4 days when he found Marketing Boost. He had a subscription service. Yeah, hundreds of people paying him $97 a month for his service. And he found Marketing Boost and he said, you know what, I'm going to go back to everybody with a promo and say, if you pay for 12 months in advance and become our VIP members, yada, yada, we'll give you 5 nights in Cancun or Hawaii. And if you pay for 3 months in advance, then 6 months in advance, we'll give you a choice of 3 nights in one of 30 U.S. destinations. In Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, Gatlinburg, Orlando, there's a bunch of them, right? So he ended up generating over 300 people pay him 12 months in advance at $1,200. And he had about 150 give him $600 for 6 months in advance. Combined, he generated almost $500,000 in 4 days. And now that's an ongoing, an additional cash flow. And now that's part of this process. After he gets them involved at the tripwire, at the $97 a month, and then, hey, step up and pay for our gold plan and become an annual member. You get this, and that. Included some of his own extra bonuses as well, which, by the way, that's part of what I preach. You need to have your own incentives as well as ours. Our product is not the magic bullet that's going to make you a millionaire. People have to know, like, and trust you. You have to have a real product or service. And then mixing in or adding in incentives is only going to enhance or improve that call to action for people to get off the fence and do business with you when otherwise they might have procrastinated and then forget all about you. That's where the incentives can be used to get people off that fence to do business with you when maybe they wouldn't have otherwise. Yeah,
that's awesome. We talked about, you and I, just the pathways of peak performance. We start with the foundation of loving what you do. The Marketing Boost can work, but you still have to have you behind, or your team, or whatever that brand message might be. So it's important for you to be able to understand your strengths, but love what you do. Then you're going to look back at this whole, say, marketing year calendar. For example, this person that had the 12-month commitments. Okay, how many clients can you take in 1 year? What do you want? How are you going to show up? So there is some work you need to do to sustain the flow, because you combine a little bit of what your expertise is along with the marketing promotions. Can be a lot of fun. But if you knock it out of the park, you have to have the resources there. So I guess that's not for us to put the cart before the horse kind of a thing. I think if something does go out, knocked out of the park, I think some of my coaches would say, hire for it when it happens. I've seen them kind of say, let's test some things and then build a team around that if you need to. So that's probably for another day. But I know you talk about how to stand out in a crowded space. And so if you have your subject matter expertise along with some of these incentives, is there anything to share in that regard? Because I almost feel like the nonprofit space, you could be out in your community doing good work, but using some incentives that can trickle back to your business. It starts with you, but it also could end with the community and really anything in between.
Especially if you are offering products and services to your local community like that. That's when that leading by giving example I gave earlier, supporting fundraisers, high school football equipment drive, whether, nurses, or police department fundraising, anything you can be doing to participate in the community and sponsoring the event, saying, hey, my firm would like to sponsor your next fundraising event. And we're going to give you a number of complimentary hotel stays and restaurant savings vouchers. For example, I'm going to support the next golf tournament and give everybody who attends the golf tournament will get a $100 restaurant savings voucher from my firm. And the winner of the hole-in-one or what have you, whatever, the biggest donor to the fundraising drive will get a complimentary hotel stay in Las Vegas on us. But you're part of the event now. You're the sponsor. Your name's somewhere in the promotions and you're there and you're supporting the community. And then, of course, there could still be additional incentives such as, to get that restaurant savings voucher I promised everyone. Well, you need to click on this QR code and you need to put your name, phone number, email in to get it. And we have the automation on the back end of our product. So you can create an automated system to send them the incentives automatically. And now you're generating leads from everybody that went to that event, for example, to follow up on with your product or service.
I think that when you're looking to work through these incentive programs, you're building out something different in the relationship where it can be more exciting and it's outside of the thing that you're working on. It's outside of that insurance transaction that feels kind of icky. It's outside of that, hey, we need to throw money at something to support a cause. Well, you're out at a community event doing it. So it makes that, I think, more enjoyable to have more fun besides the main thing by using some of these incentives and picking how you want to do it, how you want to customize it. But then you guys offer the automation on the back end.
Other thoughts that come to mind there is, when it comes to your value stack, your offer, whatever that is,
yes,
what can you do to make your value stack, your offer stand out from everybody else's in the same industry or your competitor? Well, one idea that I've helped business owners do, and that's, collaborate with others. There's power in networking.
Yes.
There's wealth in networking. And for example, Amber, if you and I were selling similar services, maybe you've written a book about certain things, or you have a training course on something, and I have a training course on something similar. We might collaborate and say, look, when you buy my product, you get a portion of Amber's course included. And now Amber's going to include a portion of my marketing course included with hers, for example. So when you buy Amber's product, you get a portion of Marco's course, for example. And then we both now are sharing in the leads back and forth. And we're both providing some of our content free as part of our additional value stack. So I'm providing it to you free, but in exchange, you're offering me the leads for me to follow up to offer my product upgrade, whatever that might be. And then you the same. So that's one way to add value to your value stack with things that don't cost you any more money and also add potentially a very strategic additional value add and or, using the marketing boost incentives. But whether it be adding your own additional widgets, maybe if you sell coaching, what you'd love for people to buy an annual plan from you, well, throw in the 13th month free. Throw in, if you pay for 12 months, you get 13 and 14th month free. Instead of discounting 20% off, throw in more widgets.
Yes. And a lot of times outside all of that, sometimes people, what we might be discounting in our own belief system is they need our whatever we offer. So if you keep them for that 13th month, we want to have them stay in the game and keep working towards the workout, the coaching system, whatever it is, because consistency is key. So instead of going discounted, I like that you're adding additional commitment levels, but they probably need it anyway. So it's going to be good for them. I think we're going to have another episode on strategic partnership, because what you just talked about there, I could talk about that for probably easily 15 minutes with you. So that might be a phase 2 that we have. Marco, how do people find you and get to know how they can build in their own automation marketing boost with you?
Just go to marketingboostsolutions.com, marketingboostsolutions.com. And on that site, there's several products and services that we offer, software solutions to business owners. But of course, there's a link there for Marketing Boost. Actually, all of your listeners can go get a free version of Marketing Boost, no credit card required, and they'll get a portion of what we offer, but they'll be able to see it with no risk at all. Send themselves one of the incentives, test it out for themselves. Or if you just click on the paid version, it's only $37 a month, and you can get access to all of our library of incentives and start rocking and rolling.
Love it. Thanks so much for being here. There's a lot to unpack, and I can't wait to see that in action on your website.
Thank you, Amber.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pathways. For more information about the podcast, books, articles, the blog, and so much more, please visit my website at amberstitt.com. And remember, let's take action today. Thank you for listening.